G'day everyone and welcome to our webinar, How to Use 5G for Business Continuity and Failover. I'm Phil McSherry, CTO at MobileCorp. Joining me today is Tim Evans, Northern Regional Lead for Cradlepoint. Before we get started, I'd just like to go over a couple of housekeeping matters. The presentation is being recorded and will be provided along with the deck to all who have registered. We only have 30 minutes scheduled for this event, so please put any questions that arise into the chat and we'll address them at the end of the presentation. For those of you who are new to Cradlepoint and or MobileCorp, I'll take this opportunity to briefly introduce the two companies. Cradlepoint is the global leader in cloud-delivered 5G wireless network edge solutions based out of the US. Cradlepoint has been very active in Australia in the past 2 years, working with leading carriers and partners to provide enterprise wireless solutions with 5G enabled devices. MobileCorp is a Sydney-based managed service provider and was Australia's first Cradlepoint Elite partner. We were also named the Cradlepoint APAC Growth Partner of the Year for 2020 and have deployed some of Australia's first 5G-enabled Cradlepoint Edge networks. With that, let's jump into the presentation and I'll hand over to Tim.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you everyone for joining. To start, I thought we'd paint a picture of why I think most of us are attending today. One, because we recognise the risk to our organisations of unplanned downtime, and two, downtime costs all businesses of all sizes across all industries. Having a quick look, do any of these figures resonate with any of us? We've got here obviously large enterprise and small medium business. I'd be interested to know in the messages if you guys think those numbers are accurate, if they're too high or too low, because I've got a bit of a use case that we've discovered. Do we actually know how much an outage is costing our organisation, taking into account the lost productivity, time, and potential sales and leads? Research shows that most of us tend to underestimate the cost of downtime and also underestimate the time to repair. In 2020, NetCloud Manager tracked 25 million fixed line outages for a total of 80 million hours of downtime. If we used a conservative figure of $500 an hour, which is lower than each of the three examples we've got on the screen, that's a total of $40 billion of downtime saved by Cradlepoint customers in the year 2020 alone. In the next few slides, we'll discover and discuss some failover techniques using 5G to shift the downtime needle lower. It's almost inevitable that at some time all of our organisations will experience an outage. We've seen causes of downtimes vary from the famous backhoe out in the outback to bushfires, floods, and also general carrier network outages. Often when this downtime occurs, we have found backup isn't functional for customers in three different ways. One, the backup bandwidth isn't sufficient to keep up with the demands of the business. Two, the disruption causes primary link to go down and also takes out the backup if they are from the same provider or occupy the same trench. Three, there's no way to monitor the backup link, so there's no way to know if it's available at the time that it's needed. We've identified 6 failover strategies to help reduce our exposure to downtime, and they are listed here. Let's go through each one of them briefly, and I'll try and be brief. The most basic way to avoid downtime is to add a diverse network connection as a backup. A second wired connection has obvious limitations. Often being from the same provider in the same physical trench as the primary, a better option is to use a cellular link such as 4G, LTE, or 5G. Cradlepoint customers of all sizes using cellular backup options, and here's a few examples. So we've got many restaurants and retail customers. We use a Cradlepoint adapter in a store or restaurant while they wait the 2 to 12 weeks to establish their wired connection. Once they plug in the primary router, the adapter fails back into backup mode. This is one of our most frequent use cases for customers to enjoy network connectivity while they wait. With cellular speeds approaching hundreds of megs per second, it provides sufficient bandwidth for most needs of a branch or remote office. Plus, with Cradlepoint NetCloud Manager, which we'll discuss more later, you can monitor the connections and provide alerts if the backup isn't functioning. In the case here we have in the diagram, it shows an LTE adapter is linked to an existing router through the console port. It has independent cellular connectivity and is able to operate on its own. It monitors the activity of the primary router, and should that router go down, it automatically establishes itself a cellular connection as a failover. and it notices a lag in activity when it does that. And once the primary router is back online, it will then fail back into backup mode. Relying on a single telecom carrier or internet provider is another risk for uptime in a branch or remote office. You can reduce the risk of carrier disruptions by using two links with different wireless carriers. The simplest way of doing this is to use an LTE or 5G router that supports two modems. Most of Cradlepoint's routers have this capability, making deployment as easy as adding a second modem and SIM to the device. SD-WAN capabilities and smart routing policies independently manage the different links, whether they are primary or secondary connections and under which conditions. You might ask, is this overkill? If or when one carrier goes down, say in bad weather, surely both will. We spoke earlier about the cost of downtime, how much business you can lose from a network outage. Based on your own revenue rates per minute or hour, you can come up with your own costs of downtime to determine if the extra cost of dual carrier redundancy would be covered by the potential loss from lost business and downtime. As for carrier diversity, we're all aware that some carriers have shared towers, but each network has their own towers and networks also. They're also able to provide redundancy for down towers by rerouting traffic to other local towers. If you're an organisation that can't afford any outage, we have customers using redundant or mirrored routers for protection against router downtime, whether it's due to maintenance or some type of failure. Each router monitors each other, and the backup router automatically takes over the primary router or WAN link failed, and then switches back to when the primary is restored. This solution is highly redundant, provides equal bandwidth to normal conditions, and still retains the management, monitoring, and alerting capabilities so you know which links are active. We have quite a few customers who have this set up in branch offices because they've found that in addition to maximum uptime, by always having a router ready with the proper configurations, they also benefit from other management efficiencies. The setup could be two Cradlepoint routers running primary and backup with all cellular. Our customers benefit from working one or two nationwide carriers, other than stringing together hundreds of ISPs, which saves costs and adds efficiencies. Or, as we have shown here, the Cradlepoint router can be added alongside an already installed router running VRRP to employ both wired and wireless connections. So, me still trying to be brief, we've covered 3 ways to increase uptime and get closer to the coveted 4 nines uptime figure. What are other ways we can keep a remote office functioning properly? Many customers use VPNs to establish connectivity, but if their head end is unreachable for any reason, the office goes offline. Dynamic multi-point VPN is a form of tunnel redundancy to automatically connect branch offices or spokes to an alternate head end or hub when an outage occurs. In addition to a hub or head end tunnel diversity, there is an equivalent level of bandwidth to run the business and means to monitor the link if it is operational or not. Cradlepoint has offered DM VPN on our routers for a number of years, and what distinguishes us is the ease of setting up and maintaining the DM VPN mesh network through NetCloud. The new VPN monitor capability, you can prioritize, act, and troubleshoot with a better understanding of the impact of the changes on your network. This monitoring shows an active path where the traffic is flowing, as well as the operational state or failover before you direct traffic onto it. VPN Monitor can perform these tasks not only on Cradlepoint equipment, but other routers as well. Many customers have cyclical business and need more bandwidth sporadically. How can 5G Failover Link help adjust these spikes? In addition to backup and uptime, cellular routers and adapters can be used to augment bandwidth in the event of traffic spikes by establishing policies based on WAN conditions or specific applications. This cellular connection can afford the primary link before it is overloaded. Additionally, the link diversity avoids any network congestion with the carrier as well. NetCloud is Cradlepoint's cloud management platform and is this interface that you can set up policies to establish the parameters of when traffic needs to be offloaded to the cellular link. One unique benefit of wireless link utilizing a Cradlepoint router and 5G is the ability to investigate the root cause of an outage in the primary link is down. In addition to keeping the network online, IT can remotely reach the primary device to troubleshoot issues and potentially fix any misconfigurations using out-of-band management. Plus, IT can reach and communicate inline devices as well as diagnose their issues. This is something unique to Cradlepoint because the adapter functions independently and isn't dependent on the wired connection to function. This saves the time and cost of sending technicians to site to investigate. Australia is leading the way in mid-band 5G rollout, when organisations are now starting to deploy proof of concepts to utilise the advantages. We will look at a few of the case studies already in play, but before I do, I'll introduce our two most popular Cradlepoint devices which are enabling these new wireless networks. The first one is the W2005 outdoor wideband 5G adapter. And not running through every one of its features now, but the highlights are obviously that we've got multi-gig throughput in pass-through, dual connectivity for 5G low, mid-band, and also a Cat20 LTE modem, 2.5 gig LAN connectivity port, and as we've already discussed, can be managed and augmented through NetCloud Manager. The next one is our E3000 branch router. It is the world's first 5G embedded router. Again, it's got a 2 gigabit firewall throughput, WAN connectivity with the 5G low, the mid-band, and a Cat18 LTE modem inside as well. All of your regular LAN connectivity types, Wi-Fi 6, gigabit ports, and SFPs, and again, leverages the NetCloud Manager portal for management. We'll now hand back to Phil of MobileCorp to outline a few of the actual use cases that Australian organisations have already deployed. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Tim. Cradlepoint routers are the backbone of the Marine Rescue New South Wales network upgrade. We have deployed 69 routers to sites along the coast of New South Wales, to inland waterways, and to Lord Howe Island. These Cradlepoint routers manage traffic routing and access to the Telstra mobile network. We have configured these routers to manage the fixed NBN infrastructure, detecting when service degradation or outages occur, and responding with automated failover to the Telstra network. The Cradlepoint devices utilise VLANs to route traffic and apply quality of service. For marine rescue, this means giving the highest priority to radio over IP traffic and the lowest priority to data traffic. The Telstra SIM cards in the Cradlepoint routers have been enabled with Telstra Lanes Emergency, a feature which allows traffic to be prioritised for emergency services ahead of consumer and business use during periods of network congestion, such as on New Year's Eve on Sydney Harbour. MobileCorp has also set up and configured the Cradlepoint NetCloud Manager portal to provide network performance visibility, data usage, and to allow remote troubleshooting and out-of-band management. Ticketek utilises Cradlepoint devices for failover at more than 100 branch offices, as well as at stadiums and semi-temporary venues. In this case, the Cradlepoint router is part of a wider network transformation, providing connectivity to live ticketing, turnstile entry, and access to cloud-based services. In practice, the current failover is to Telstra 4G, but as 5G becomes more widely available, the Cradlepoint devices are future-proofed with a view to being the primary link in some locations, such as annual events. Here are two more use cases for customers that MobileCorp is currently working with. In the first case, an independent school reached out to us after roadworks outside the school dug up their dark fibre link and the entire campus was without internet for a day. This happened during the week with students at school rather than remote learning and took out all internet access, causing major disruption. The school now has a proof of concept in place with a Cradlepoint W2005 outdoor adapter and omnidirectional antenna installed on the roof and accessing the 5G signal from multiple 5G Telstra towers within a 2-kilometre radius. The adapter is connected directly to the secondary WAN port on their existing next generation firewall. The school has 5 other campus locations and are looking at the feasibility of using 5G for failover in each of these. The second case is a pharmaceutical company. We placed a Cradlepoint router at their new warehouse research facility in Kemps Creek outside of Sydney. This allowed them to have 4G connectivity and have the site up and running 4 months sooner than NBN would allow. Once the NBN link was installed, the router was configured for NBN as the primary and 4G for failover. This enabled the site to have business continuity plan with proven 4G connectivity for redundancy. That brings us to the end of the actual presentation, and you may be wondering where to go from here. With that, we can help. The first step is to talk one-on-one with us about your individual situation and then to complete a 5G site feasibility survey, which will determine if the target site has sufficient 5G or 4G signal strength. In most metropolitan areas and in many regional towns, this is likely to be the case. Second up would be to formalize a proof of concept for you. So if that sounds like something you are ready to talk about, let's get together and see how 5G can be used to provide business continuity and failover, or even primary connectivity to your business. With that, I'd like to throw it open to everybody. If anybody has any questions that they would like answered, now's a great time. Just throw it in the Q&A window and we can answer that for you. We've got a question that's come in that's asking about why is it important to do a 5G feasibility assessment? Okay, so what that would be is you would need to do the 5G feasibility assessment to determine whether you're going to be able to get 5G at your location. And whilst that can be something simple, and you can, if you've got a phone with 5G on it, you can look at it and go, okay, yes, I've got that here. But when we're talking about something, more so than getting it on a phone, but actually providing it to a site, it really is something that you would need to do in terms of being able to determine where the closest towers are, what the signal strength is determined to be, whether you need to have an externally mounted antenna, whether that needs to be a certain type of antenna, and things like that. So there's going to be a few things that we need to work out. Terrain is also another problem that can happen. If it's blocking your signal and things like that. So it's always best to get a feasibility assessment done prior to going through and looking at a proof of concept and making sure that the site is actually something that's going to be able to service 5G or 4G in that particular site, in that particular matter. Okay, we have some other questions as well. When will Telstra have 5G data, shared data plans that can be used in Cradlepoint routers? That is a question that is probably best to speak to your account manager about if you're a current MobileCorp customer. If not, please reach out to Jason, and Jason will be able to point you in the direction to get that answered.
Can you just maybe share Jason's details in the chat then, Phil?
Yeah, they're just on the screen at the moment. Jason Blaney.
Oh, they are too.
Yep. So sorry, yes, Jason Blaney, that's his contact details there. You can reach out to him.
I see another one. Is 5G only mobile or via fibre in the land? 5G is only mobile. It's the 5th generation of mobile wireless technology. So, yeah, definitely wireless only.
Okay. What is the importance of completing a site? Yep, we just covered that one. Yep. Okay.
What is the timeline for setup for connectivity when compared to fibre? You may have caught my little tongue-in-cheek comment about restaurants and retail that will use a Cradlepoint device to set up wirelessly first as they wait the 2 to 12 weeks waiting for fibre, and even 12 weeks in my experience in the past can be conservative in some instances. So if the Cradlepoint device is in your hand and you have a SIM card and it's connected to 5G, you can be set up, in under an hour or a number of hours if it's being set externally, as opposed to waiting weeks or months for fixed lines to be run and whatnot. So yeah, the time difference is dramatically different.
Okay, thanks for that. Which industry is leading with wire solutions? Well, that's in terms of from a product standpoint, it's definitely Cradlepoint. I will say that as a partner, MobileCorp is a partner of Cradlepoint, but it's definitely, we've looked at quite a number of different products, and I can, very confidently say, hands down, that Cradlepoint has been the best wireless solution in terms of 4G and 5G connectivity.
It may actually be, Phil, that the question is which industries out in the market are leading with wireless, possibly.
Yep. That's another reading of it, yeah.
Yep, maybe. So from my point of view, we mentioned retail and hospitality are two. Building and construction, absolutely. You look at the amount of development going on up and down the east coast of Australia at the moment. Any and all of those building sites where they don't have terrestrial carriage types run in already are leveraging it. So building construction, we have a lot to do around pop-ups, health, especially with COVID. We've done a whole bunch of stuff with government health around pop-up clinics and also private health around vaccinations. It's multitude. Obviously, Phil's mentioned some of the use cases that MobileCorp have also deployed as well. You can almost pick an industry, and I can probably give you a use case where they've relied on wireless other than just terrestrial.
Thanks, Tim.
No problems. What have we got? How fast are Australian businesses taking up these types of solutions? I guess the first point is it's pretty quick because I'm gainfully employed. I think the funniest thing is that as more and more businesses move to NBN and away from other carriage types, and the carriers are starting to turn some of those off, that wireless is definitely becoming more prevalent. It all depends. You know, some of them are quite rusted onto terrestrial type carriage, and there are a lot of other businesses that are taking advantage of the agility of moving to wireless.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that it really comes down to what are the critical uptime factors for your business as well. As was mentioned during the actual webinar, you know, it's something that some customers value very highly. They can't have that downtime, and you know, whilst you know, you can have, you know, the carrier diversity is what makes it appealing. I think you know, you can have, as an example, some of the devices that we have can have up to 4 SIMs in them, and 4 SIMs plus, you know, fixed internet, you know, such as NBN or whatever. You know, if uptime is critical for you, that's something that's definitely going to that's what you're going to want to look at for that. So it really sort of comes down to what are those businesses requiring. Okay.
There's another one here. Is there a site we can go and check availability by entering the address ourselves? There is. Best way to do it is probably if you were just Googling Telstra 5G coverage map. But bear in mind that coverage map is the coverage, say, from the tower and the spread. It won't factor in things like building blockage or trees or any of the other things that can get in the way of a 5G signal, which is why the feasibility is so important. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay, so another one, can I use MobileCorp just for Cradlepoint and connectivity? Yes, you can. Yeah, if that's something you're interested in, please reach out to us and we can have more of a discussion around that, but yes, you can. Okay, another question. Our branch offices are very remote. Okay, that's why I asked the question. That was from a previous one. Yep. Is it possible to aggregate SIMs to increase bandwidth in the Cradlepoint service if a single 5G SIM is not sufficient? Okay, so in terms of, if you mean in terms of like bonding multiple links, that I believe is something that is not available on.
Not simply by bonding the links. You're right, but it depends on what devices you had of Cradlepoints. There's a number of things you could do around traffic management policies, maybe routing some traffic out directly over the internet, so it was Office 365 traffic, and then maybe pointing the rest of your network-based traffic over another SIM. If you had an APN on or something like that, there's definitely lots of different ways to do that. That would be worth a deep dive with Phil and the team. That's probably the easiest way to give a short, sharp answer on that. Here's one for you, Phil. Can MobileCorp manage the Cradlepoint environment if we don't have the resources or expertise?
Absolutely, we can. We do provide a managed service around Cradlepoint deployment and ongoing support. We'll work with you to through all of that, and right up to support, which we do currently at 8 AM to 8 PM, Monday to Friday. If you have a need outside of that, we can work with you around that as well. But yeah, so we provide, should we say, managed services support for all our Cradlepoint products. Yes. What is it? Okay, that's. Do Cradlepoint solutions connect easily with Palo Alto devices or other next-gen firewalls? Yes, they do. Yes. So, and again, it's depending on what you're sort of after. There may be some cases where Cradlepoint is going to be able to replace your current firewall, if that's something you're looking at. If you want to have it as a complement to, say, something like a W2005 and have that connecting to an existing firewall to provide a secondary WAN connection, yes, that they can do that. Palo Alto actually has integrations with Cradlepoint as well, and so yes, that definitely can. It definitely can do that.
Yep, definitely worth a deep dive, that one, because I
Yes.
mean, obviously we've got the adapters, but there's also the where we discussed in the DM VPN for head ends, or also VRRP for connecting one router to another if you're looking at redundancy that way.
Excellent. Can MobileCorp complete installations nationwide? Yes, we can. Yeah, we do have a national presence for site surveys, site feasibility, and for installations. Yes.
Can I use the dual SIM capability to capitalize on 5G only and a second SIM with LTE? You would need dual modems for that. It's a single modem dual SIM, so only one SIM would be active at a time within a single modem. So you would need to run a secondary modem if you're looking to leverage both SIMs.
All right, excellent. Thanks, Tim. Okay, that looks like that's it in terms of questions. And we're right on 11:30 now, so I'll thank everyone for their time. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. The contact details are on the screen. Happy to discuss in further detail any questions or thoughts or anything that you may have around how Cradlepoint can work for your business. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Tim.
Enjoy your
Thanks,
Thursday.
everyone.